I wasn't supposed to be home that evening. It was a Saturday, early spring, the kind of day where the sun clings to the horizon longer than usual, stretching twilight until it feels like time forgets to move. I had driven out to visit my brother for a quick check-in. Nothing urgent. He needed help setting up his new grill, and I figured I'd stay for dinner. But something nagged at me halfway through our beers, a feeling I couldn't shake, like I'd left the stove on or forgotten to lock the door. So, I made an excuse, cut things short, and hit the road before dark. Natalie had said she'd be out late. Girls' night, she told me, rooftop bar downtown, some new place one of her friends had been dying to try. I didn't question it. I rarely did. We'd been married 6 years, together for almost 10. That kind of trust doesn't disappear overnight. Or so I thought. I pulled into the driveway a little after 8:30 p.m. The porch light was off, curtains drawn. The living room windows were dim except for the soft flicker of a lamp I usually leave on for her. I unlocked the door quietly, not wanting to spook anyone in case she was already back. But I expected the house to be empty. It wasn't. The first thing I noticed was the faint smell. Something savory, greasy, maybe pepperoni. Our bedroom door was slightly ajar, the glow of a bedside lamp spilling into the hallway. I paused there, my hand still resting on the doorknob. And maybe that was the moment everything began to change. Inside, the scene was off. That's the best way I can describe it. There was a jacket on the bed. A man's. Not mine. I have 4 jackets. 2 leather, 1 denim, 1 peacoat, all hanging in the closet. This one was navy blue, worn at the elbows, with a stitched patch near the collar that said Talon in gold lettering. I didn't recognize it. Next to it were 2 empty tumblers, one with a lime wedge still floating in the bottom. The cups had condensation, rings still fresh on the nightstand. On the dresser sat a greasy pizza box from that place on Market Street. Thin crust, wood-fired, the kind Natalie and I used to split on movie nights. Inside was a crust, bitten halfway through, tossed carelessly. Fingerprints smeared the lid. One set clearly hers, polished nails painted wine red. The other set, larger, Messier, wasn't. I didn't say anything, didn't make a sound. I just stood there, listening. The house was quiet, but it didn't feel still. It felt disturbed, like something had been knocked out of place and quickly, poorly reset. My heart started pounding, a dull, low thump that I could feel in my ears. Then the front door opened. Her voice floated in bright, casual. "Thomas?" she called out. "You home?" I didn't answer, just waited. Listened to the click of her heels against the hardwood, the rustle of her jacket as she draped it over the banister. She wasn't rushing, which told me she didn't expect me to be there. That alone made something in my gut twist. When she reached the bedroom, she stopped cold. Our eyes met. Hers widened for a split second before she slid seamlessly into a smile. "Oh," she said, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "You're back early." I looked at her. Not the way I usually did, but differently, like I was trying to read a stranger. "Yeah," I said slowly. "Thought I'd surprise you." She glanced at the jacket on the bed. 1 heartbeat. 2. Then she moved with casual purpose, grabbing it like it was no big deal. "Eli stopped by," she said lightly, already walking toward the laundry hamper. "You remember Eli, right? From work. He had that phone charger of mine. Said he'd be in the neighborhood. Figured he'd drop it off." I said nothing. She tossed the jacket into the hamper like it was a dirty dish towel, then grabbed the pizza box, folding it shut and heading to the kitchen trash can. Her movements were quick but composed, rehearsed, almost, like she knew exactly what to do, what to say. "We got hungry," she continued, her voice even, almost cheerful. "Didn't want to cook." I figured, hey, why not pizza? I stood there, watching her like someone watching a scene from behind glass. Separated, stunned, unsure what to touch for fear of breaking it all. "And the drinks?" I asked quietly. She turned, a dish towel in one hand, and shrugged. "You know me. Always something in the fridge." I offered him a drink, he had one, we chatted. "That's it." She said it all so calmly, with the same tone she used when explaining why she bought a different brand of paper towels. She wasn't flustered. Her voice didn't crack. Her eyes didn't dart. It was textbook composure. And maybe that was what scared me more than anything, because in that moment, I realized something important. Natalie had always been calm, level-headed, graceful under pressure. It was one of the things I loved about her. But now, that steadiness, the thing that once comforted me, felt cold, controlled, calculated. She smiled again, setting the towel down. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded, slowly, mechanically. "Yeah, just surprised." She crossed the room, kissed me on the cheek. "Next time, text me. I would have cleaned up first." And just like that, she slipped into the bathroom, flipping on the fan and starting the shower, as if nothing was wrong, as if nothing at all had happened. I stood there for a while after the water started running, staring at the empty cups, at the faint trail of crumbs leading from the bed to the hallway, at the way the pillows were arranged, one slightly dented in the middle, not how I left it. I thought about asking more questions, about pushing the issue, but instead, I walked into the living room, sat down on the couch, and stared at the blank TV screen. Natalie had explained everything, and yet nothing made sense. I didn't sleep much that night, even with Natalie beside me, her breathing soft and rhythmic, like nothing had shifted. I lay awake, eyes fixed on the ceiling. I could feel the distance between us like a cold sheet tucked under the covers. She didn't touch me. I didn't reach for her. We existed on separate islands with a sea of silence between us. I kept replaying the scene in my head. The jacket, the cups, the pizza. Eli? I'd heard his name once or twice in passing, maybe during some half-hearted work story, but I couldn't picture his face. All I had was the word, and that wasn't enough to silence the noise in my mind. The next morning, she was already in the kitchen when I came down. Pancakes, fresh fruit, French press coffee, like she was hosting a morning talk show. "Morning," she said, smiling, her voice light, normal. "Morning. You want me to make you a plate?" I nodded, still half asleep but wide awake in the worst way. I watched her move around the kitchen. Fluid, efficient, like always. But now it felt performative, like I was watching her play the role of my wife instead of just being her. She slid a plate in front of me, kissed the top of my head, and sat down across the table with her phone already in hand. I stared at the pancakes, perfect golden circles stacked like a commercial. Syrup on the side, just how I liked it. It would have been touching, comforting, if I hadn't been so suspicious of her motives. That morning set a tone. From then on, I started noticing things. Not new things, just things I'd ignored before. Like how she always kept her phone screen tilted away from me now. How it never made a sound anymore, no dings, no buzzes. Just silence. And how it was always face down, even when we were just watching a show on the couch. Natalie had started going out more often, too. Not wildly out of character, but the frequency had ticked up. Work dinner, she'd say. Or just a quick drink with the girls. Once or twice, she said she was just driving around to clear her head. And maybe that would have been believable if not for the subtle transformation in her wardrobe. She started wearing new perfume, something with a sharper floral scent I didn't recognize. Her makeup had changed slightly, too. Less casual, more polished. And then there was the lingerie. I noticed it missing. That sounds creepier than I mean it to. But I do our laundry sometimes. I fold things. I know what goes where. And there were definitely pieces she hadn't worn around me for months. But I found their hangers empty. I didn't ask. Couldn't. Because once you start asking, it becomes real. And I wasn't ready for that. Not yet. Instead, I started watching. Quietly. I memorized the names she mentioned. The coworkers. The friends. The bars. I looked for patterns. I noticed inconsistencies. She told me she was going to meet Beth and Lauren one night. But when I casually brought them up the next morning, she blanked for a second. "Oh yeah. Lauren couldn't make it, actually." Then she changed the subject. Harmless? Maybe. But it didn't feel harmless. Felt rehearsed. One night, after she'd left for another quick outing, I walked into the hallway barefoot and paused. Footprints. Not mud or anything dramatic. Just faint outlines, darker patches in the carpet near the entrance. Bigger than mine. Different tread. The kind that come from heavy boots or work shoes, not the heels Natalie wore. My heartbeat quickened. I knelt down and felt the carpet. Still slightly damp. Had it rained? I checked the weather app. Clear all day. Maybe the carpet had just been cleaned. Maybe I was losing my mind. But the feeling didn't go away. Later that week, while Natalie was in the shower, I noticed a phone notification flash on her screen before it went dark. It was from someone named Lena W. The message preview was just a single line. He asked about last Friday. Be careful. I didn't touch the phone. I didn't snoop. I just stood there staring at the screen like it was a ticking bomb. Be careful? Was I being paranoid? Was he even me? The moment passed. The screen went black again, and so did the chance to see more. When she came out, towel wrapped around her hair, she smiled at me like nothing was wrong. I smiled back, and something inside me began to rot. I started keeping a journal. Nothing poetic. Just notes. Dates. Names. Things that didn't add up. Things she said that contradicted earlier things. Screensh *TS when I could take them. Photos of receipts she left on the counter. Ones with times that didn't match the story. I even kept the image of that jacket in my head. I started to sketch it on paper, just so I wouldn't forget what it looked like. Talon. Gold patch. Why would Eli, if that was even his name, leave it behind? Why would he come over, eat, drink, and leave without a goodbye or even a message to say thanks? I began running through scenarios in my head like I was preparing for a deposition. And yet, every time I looked at her, she was Natalie, at least on the surface. Her voice, her laugh, her routines. But it was like someone had snuck in and stolen the essence of her while I was distracted and left behind a mannequin made of habits and good lighting. One night, lying in bed, I asked her, quietly, almost too casually, "Hey, do you think we've been okay lately?" She turned toward me. "What do you mean?" "I don't know. Just feels like we're not talking as much." She smiled, brushing my arm with her fingers. "We've both been busy. We're fine, Thomas. You worry too much." That was it. No deeper conversation. Just a pat on the head and a lullaby. But I wasn't fine. And I was definitely starting to worry too much. At work, I found myself distracted. Typing the wrong figures. Forgetting meetings. Checking my phone constantly, hoping to catch her in something. Hoping I was wrong. One afternoon, I came home early and stood silently outside the front door, trying to hear anything. I even hesitated before unlocking it, imagining that maybe, if I walked in fast enough, I'd catch her with someone. But the house was empty, smelled like citrus cleaner. She got home an hour later, didn't ask why I was back early, just kissed my forehead and told me she was starving. That's when I started to accept it. Denial was no longer an option. Something was wrong. The jacket, the prints, the glasses, the lies, the text. She was slipping. Or maybe she just didn't care enough to cover it anymore. And I was done pretending. The thing about suspicion is it never sleeps. Once it takes root, it keeps feeding on everything. Every silence, every delay, every shrug and half smile. It grows legs, teeth. It stops being a question and starts becoming an answer you don't want to believe. That week, I had a business trip scheduled. 2 days in Charlotte for a vendor conference. I almost canceled it. Every bone in my body said stay home. Watch her. Catch her. But I didn't. I told myself it'd be smarter to let things play out. Give her space to slip up. So I left. But 2 hours into the drive, I made a decision. I wasn't going to Charlotte. Instead, I booked a motel 20 minutes outside our town, paid cash, and turned my phone off. I wanted to disappear. For her. I wanted her to think I was gone. To let her guard down. To be exactly who she'd been rehearsing not to be. The next day, around 3 p.m., I parked a few houses down and waited. It was a clear day, mild breeze, the kind of afternoon where nothing dramatic should ever happen. But my palms were sweating. My throat was dry. I watched our house from the car, engine off, sunglasses on, like I was in some kind of second-rate spy movie. And then, around 4:15, a car I didn't recognize pulled up. Sleek, black, tinted windows. Not a rental, but expensive enough to make me tense. A man stepped out. I couldn't see his face clearly, but I knew immediately. This wasn't Eli. This wasn't some coworker swinging by to return a phone charger. He walked up to the door like he'd done it before. No hesitation. He knocked once. Natalie answered a beat later. She smiled. Not just a polite smile. The kind of smile I hadn't seen from her in months. The kind that started in the eyes and softened her whole face. She let him in without a glance over her shoulder. I waited another 2 minutes, maybe less, then climbed out of the car and walked up the sidewalk. My heart felt like a drum, my legs like wood. I let myself in through the back door, quietly, like a thief in my own home. The first thing I heard was the shower. I crept through the kitchen, where the same 2 glasses from that other night were out again. This time with a bottle of wine, uncorked and half gone. A red. Natalie didn't even drink reds. Said they gave her headaches. I didn't say a word. I didn't make a sound. In the hallway, I noticed something strange. A towel on the floor. Men's socks. Gray, with a tiny embroidered logo I didn't recognize. The air smelled different. Like bergamot and something else sharp and heavy, a cologne that had nothing to do with me. The bedroom door was open. The bed was unmade. Both pillows looked used. Her hairbrush was on the nightstand. A pair of her heels was tossed to one side, along with a belt that definitely wasn't mine. I heard a laugh. Male? Then her voice, playful, light, the way she used to sound with me. You're hogging all the hot water. That's when I stepped into the doorway. The bathroom door was cracked open, steam curling out in thick white wisps. And then he walked out wrapped in a towel, water still beating down his arms. He didn't see me right away. He was focused on drying his hair with another towel, humming something under his breath. Then Natalie appeared behind him. Both of them froze when they saw me. 3 seconds passed. Maybe 4. Nobody moved. She was wearing one of my shirts, thin cotton, oversized on her. It used to be her favorite for sleeping in. Now it just felt like a cruel prop. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. He took half a step back, probably realizing he was still dripping wet, exposed in every way that mattered. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I didn't even ask questions. I just stood there, looking at both of them like they were strangers in my house. Because that's exactly what they were now. Natalie reached out like she might try to explain, her lips twitching into some kind of excuse, but I turned and walked out. No bags. No shouting match. No drama. I just left. I heard her call my name once. Soft. Unsure. She didn't follow. I walked to my car in a daze. Hands trembling. Chest hollow. The spring air tasted like metal in my mouth. I drove for hours aimlessly until I ended up at a rundown motel off the interstate. The kind with flickering vacancy signs and sticky lobby counters. I paid in cash again. Checked in under a fake name. I didn't want to be found. Not yet. That first night, I didn't sleep. I laid there staring at the ceiling, the image of her and that man replaying in my head like a loop I couldn't shut off. Not just the physical betrayal, but the casualness of it. The comfort. The way it had clearly happened before. Maybe many times. They weren't caught in the act. They were caught in the routine. The next morning, I turned my phone on. 10 missed calls. 7 voicemails. All from her. I didn't listen to a single one. Instead, I stared at the motel wall for hours, numb to everything but the fact that my entire marriage had just detonated and I hadn't even raised my voice. I didn't know where to go. I didn't want to go to family, not yet. I wasn't ready to explain anything to anyone. I just wanted silence. Stillness. Somewhere I could fall apart without witnesses. But the stillness made room for thoughts. Memories. The night we met. Her laugh when she tried sushi for the first time. The way she used to fall asleep in the passenger seat of my car during road trips. Her hand resting lightly on my thigh. I hated that those memories were still beautiful. Even now. Even after everything. Around sunset on the second day, I finally got a text, not from Natalie, but from an unknown number. My name is Lena. I think we need to talk. I'm not trying to make this worse. But I believe you saw my husband today. It took me a minute to process. Then it hit me. The man from the shower. He wasn't just a mistake. He was someone else's mistake too. I didn't respond right away. I didn't know if I wanted to. But curiosity is louder than pain sometimes. So I replied, "Where?" She sent me the address of a little cafe near the Riverwalk. Said she'd be in the back wearing a green coat. I went. I don't know why. Maybe because I wanted answers. Maybe because I needed someone else to confirm I wasn't insane. When I arrived, she was already there. Early 30s. Smartly dressed. Wedding ring still on. We didn't shake hands. We didn't smile. She just pulled a photo out of her purse and slid it across the table. It was him. With Natalie. Laughing together at a cafe I recognized. Her hand on his knee. His fingers laced with hers. Taken from a distance. From behind a menu, probably. Or a parked car. Then she pulled out her phone and played an audio clip. It was Natalie's voice. Clear. Steady. I love him. It's not just an affair. It's real. I'm going to leave Thomas. I just need to time it right. Lena didn't say anything while it played. Neither did I. When it ended, she looked at me, eyes hollow but sharp. I thought you deserved to know what she wasn't saying. I nodded. That's all I could do. We sat in silence a while longer. Two strangers linked by the same betrayal, sipping lukewarm coffee in a booth that suddenly felt too small. When I finally left, the air felt colder. The wind sharper. But inside, everything was just quiet. Not peaceful. Not yet. But quiet. I stayed in that motel for 3 more days. It was the kind of place where time didn't matter. The curtains were heavy enough to block out the sun completely, and the hum of the wall unit air conditioner became the only sound I could trust. I kept my phone off most of the time. When I did turn it on, there were more messages from Natalie. Dozens now. Texts that started as concerned and desperate. Then they became pleading. Then angry. Then cold. I didn't answer any of them. I knew if I heard her voice, if I even gave her space to speak, I might do something stupid, like let her twist this into some kind of misunderstanding. Like let her make it seem survivable. I wasn't ready to hear apologies. I wasn't ready to be told how I'd misunderstood what I saw with my own eyes. I needed silence. I needed to understand that she didn't just betray me. She planned it. She rehearsed it. And worst of all, she was trying to make it look like nothing happened even after everything was exposed. Lena texted again on the 4th morning. I have something else you should hear. Can I call you? At first, I hesitated. I didn't know if I had the emotional bandwidth to open another box of truth. But then I remembered the audio clip. Natalie's voice, so calm, so sure. I'm going to leave Thomas. I just need to time it right. She wasn't crying. She wasn't torn up about it. She was just matter of fact. Like it was a decision she'd weighed and measured and penciled in. Like I was a meeting she was preparing to cancel. So I texted back, yeah. Call me. Lena called a few minutes later. Her voice was crisp, almost professional. No hesitation. Hey, she said. I just wanted to give you a heads up. I found something this morning. A voice memo. I guess he didn't delete it off his cloud. It's them. Together. I think it was from 2 nights before you caught them. Do you want to hear it? I took a breath. Yes. She forwarded it to me without another word. I listened. I sat on the edge of the motel bed, elbows on my knees, holding my phone like it was something radioactive. The recording started with laughter. Not embarrassed giggles, real, open laughter. Then his voice, if I didn't know any better, I'd say you were already mine. Then Natalie, you don't have to know better. You just have to wait a little longer. They laughed again. Then silence. Then more rustling. Then her voice again, closer to the mic. He's starting to get suspicious. I can feel it. I caught him looking through my texts the other day. He laughed. He gonna swing on me? She scoffed. Thomas wouldn't. He'll break. Eventually. Those last 3 words hit me harder than anything else had. He'll break. Eventually. Not he'll find out. Not I'm scared. Not even he'll forgive me. No. She was predicting it like the weather. That was the moment something hardened in me. Like clay drying too fast. Like blood that stopped clotting and just went cold. I stood up and paced the room with my phone still in my hand, the audio playing again, the words burning deeper every time. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't even conflicted. She just didn't think I'd have the strength to walk away. Lena called again later that day. I'm filing for separation this week, she said. He thinks I'll get over it. That we'll move past it. Like this was just a bump. What changed? I asked. You did, she said simply. You walking out? That shook her. It made them both realize they might not be in control after all. I didn't know what to say to that. I wasn't trying to be an example for anyone. I just wanted to survive the day without collapsing. We talked a little longer. She told me she'd already started boxing his stuff. Told him to find somewhere else to sleep. I can't look at him without seeing all the lies, she said. That's not a marriage. That's a hostage situation. She paused. You want to grab coffee sometime? Just as not alone people. That made me smile for the first time in days. Yeah, I'd like that. The following day, I went home. Natalie wasn't there when I arrived. She'd stopped trying to call by then, but I could still feel her presence in the house. The lights were off. Her jacket was still on the hook. Our framed photo from our anniversary trip to San Diego was still on the hallway table, us smiling in front of the ocean, wind in our hair, the sky so blue it hurt. I stared at it for a long time. Then I took it down and flipped it face down. I didn't unpack. I didn't sit. I walked straight into the entryway closet and pulled out an old shoebox where we kept spare keys, old mail, some mementos. I found the key to our mailbox, the same key we both always ignored because we paid everything online. But I wasn't looking for bills. I had something else in mind. I wrote a note. Not long. Not dramatic. Just a plain white envelope with her name on it. Inside, I wrote the following. You've made your choice. This is mine. Use the key however you want, but don't use it to find me. T. I taped it to the inside of the door and left it unlocked. On the floor, beside the door frame, I placed her suitcase packed with just enough to be unmistakably final, a few outfits, her toiletries, her worn copy of Pride and Prejudice that she always kept on her nightstand. I wanted it to be clear. This wasn't a fight. It wasn't a threat. It was the end of the performance. 2 hours later, she came home. I heard the engine. The soft slam of the car door. Her heels on the walkway. The pause before the lock clicked. Maybe she noticed the door wasn't latched. I stayed upstairs, out of sight, listening. The door opened. The suitcase was the first thing she saw. Then the envelope. I imagined the way her breath caught. The paper trembling in her hand. I pictured her face when she read it, when she recognized that the control she thought she had was gone. Then I heard her sit down. And cry. Not loud. Not performative. Not like the last time when I knew she was crying because she needed to be seen crying. This time, it sounded different. She wasn't pretending. But it didn't matter anymore. I didn't come down. I didn't comfort her. I didn't need to. Her tears didn't mean remorse. They meant she finally realized I was gone. That this wasn't a pause. It wasn't a storm we'd weather and laugh about years later. It was over. I went to stay at a friend's place that night. His guest room was cramped, filled with workout gear and laundry baskets, but it was honest. It was real. No masks. No half-truths. Just space to think. Lena and I met for coffee the next evening. She wore a dark green scarf. No makeup. Her eyes were tired but steady. Guess we're the survivors, she said. Yeah, I replied. Though I don't feel like one yet. We didn't talk much about them. We didn't need to. We'd both lived the same betrayal in 2 different households. Same wound, different wallpaper. Instead, we talked about everything else. Work. Old dreams. Childhood movies. It was nice to talk without tiptoeing around someone else's reactions. No code switching. No pretending. When we left the cafe, she looked at me and said, you know, for what it's worth, I think she expected you to explode. To fall apart? To make it easier for her to justify leaving. Maybe I said. But I didn't give her that. No. You gave her something worse. You gave her consequences. She smiled, then added, that's the one thing cheaters never planned for. A week passed. 7 long, uneven days. Natalie didn't move out, not right away. She stayed gone the first night, probably with a friend or whoever she could call at the last minute. The second night she came back. I wasn't there, but I heard from a neighbor that her car was parked outside for almost an hour before it drove off again. Maybe she sat there staring at the house, trying to build up the courage to walk in. Maybe she read the note again and realized there wasn't much left to say. On the 3rd day, I came back to gather more of my stuff. She wasn't there. The suitcase was gone. So was the envelope. But her clothes still hung in the closet and her makeup sat untouched on the bathroom sink like time had been frozen mid-sentence. The bed was made. Everything neat, too neat, except for one thing. My wedding ring. It sat on the nightstand, positioned carefully on a coaster like some kind of offering. I stared at it for a long time, then slid it into my coat pocket without a word. I didn't know what to feel. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even an acknowledgement. It was just placed. Like a reminder that no matter what else changed, something real had once lived here. I started sleeping back at the house a few days after that. Not because I forgave her, God, no, but because I needed to reclaim the space. It was my house too. Maybe more mine now than ever. I wasn't going to let her ghost haunt it. I boxed up the wedding photos. Took down the prints she'd picked out. Rearranged the bookshelves. I needed it to feel different. Even if it didn't yet. And then one Thursday night, rain tapping softly against the kitchen windows, she came back. I had just finished cleaning. The air smelled like lemon cleaner and wood polish. I'd left the front light on, half out of habit, half because I knew she might try again. When I heard the key in the lock, I didn't move from the couch. I just waited. The door opened. She stepped inside slowly, cautiously, like she didn't know if she was allowed to be there. She had an umbrella tucked under one arm, hair damp, a black coat wrapped tightly around her like armor. I didn't speak. She set her bag down and stood in the entryway, staring at me. I didn't think you'd be here, she said. I live here, I replied, my tone flat. A pause. Her eyes moved around the room like she was taking inventory. It probably felt different to her. Less familiar. Colder. I just came to get a few more things, she said quietly. I nodded. Go ahead. She lingered there for a second longer, like she wanted to say something else. But then she turned and headed upstairs. I stared at the blank television screen, listening to her footsteps overhead. Every creak of the floorboards was familiar and foreign all at once. After a few minutes, she came back down carrying a duffel bag and a small box. She looked thinner. Pale. She stopped near the stairs and pulled something from her coat pocket. I left you something, she said. Before I knew you were here. She held out a small silver key. My breath caught. The mailbox key. The same one I had taped to the door beside her suitcase. I didn't reach for it. I checked the box, she said, voice cracking. I thought maybe you put something in it. Something else. There was nothing else, I said. She swallowed. Right? I didn't take the key. She set it down on the table instead. Then she reached into the box she was carrying and pulled out an envelope. It was plain white, like the one I'd left for her, but this time my name was written on the front in her handwriting. That familiar curve of the T, the way she looped the H too high. A habit from years of taking notes as a kid, she once told me. I used to think it was charming. I wrote this a few days ago, she said. I didn't know if I'd give it to you. I didn't answer. She set the letter beside the key. You don't have to read it. But it's the truth. She started to turn away, then hesitated. I know you don't believe anything I say now. And I get it. But I still needed to say something that wasn't just defensive. I looked at her then. Really looked. Her eyes were swollen. Not freshly cried, but from days of it. Her voice didn't carry the polish it used to, the one she'd used the night I caught her when she tried to explain away another man's jacket like it was a coworker's drop-in. This voice was worn down. Quiet. Less rehearsed. Goodbye, Thomas, she said, and her voice cracked at the edges. I didn't say anything. She opened the door slowly, letting the cold air sweep in. As she stepped out, she paused one last time, then pulled it shut behind her with a soft click. Just like that, she was gone. I sat there, staring at the letter and the key. I didn't move. Not for a long time. The room was filled with an eerie kind of quiet, the kind that only follows something truly final. It wasn't like when someone storms out during a fight. It wasn't like slamming doors or shouted words. This was a silence that settled deep. It felt like fog. Heavy. Immovable. Eventually, I picked up the envelope. I didn't open it. Not right away. I just held it. Read my name over and over again. Wondered what could possibly be inside that I didn't already know. What part of the story she thought still needed telling. When I finally opened it, I didn't expect much. It was short. Only a few lines. Thomas, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to reply. But I want you to know this, I never lied about one thing. You were good to me. I just stopped being good in return. I don't know why I broke something that loved me. I don't even know if I'll ever understand it myself. But you deserved more than this. You deserved someone who didn't make you second-guess your instincts. Who didn't smile in your face and plant someone else behind your back. I'm not asking for sympathy. Just, thank you. For being the one person who never made me feel small even when I didn't deserve your kindness. I hope you find peace in a way I never could. N. I read it twice. Then folded it back along the crease and slid it into the drawer beneath the coffee table. Not because I wanted to keep it. Not because it meant closure. But because it felt like something that didn't need to be destroyed. Not out of forgiveness. Not out of softness. Just acknowledgement. The next morning, I dropped the mailbox key into a drawer full of old batteries and spare cords. I wouldn't be using it again. Then I went for a walk. It was cold. Brisk enough to make me keep moving. I walked past the little bakery on the corner that Natalie used to love, past the park where she once took photos of leaves and tagged me in them with captions like, "Fall with my favorite person." I didn't stop. I didn't look at any of it too long. Because for the first time in weeks, I wasn't trying to understand the past. I was trying to remember how to live in the present. She should have stayed gone. I'd gone days without hearing from her, which felt like healing. But then Lena sent me one last thing, a **T of an email Natalie sent to her lover, accidentally CC'd to Lena's husband's shared inbox. In it, Natalie wrote about me. Cold. Clinical. He's unraveling, she said. I give it a few weeks. He's too passive to fight back. I printed it out. The next day, I came home early. Natalie was on the couch, scrolling her phone like the world was still intact. She looked up, startled to see me. Thomas? I dropped the envelope on the coffee table. Photos. The recording. The email. She didn't speak. Then the door opened. Lena walked in behind me, arms crossed. Natalie's face went white. I said only one thing, you can't lie your way out now. And then I left. For good. A month later, I moved to a small town Lena once mentioned. Quiet. No ghosts. An old friend helped me get a job at a library, dusty shelves, creaky floors, and peace. I rented an apartment above a bakery. Mornings smelled like fresh croissants. Nights were mine again. Lena and I texted sometimes. Not because we needed to, but because we understood. There was a strange comfort in knowing someone else had crawled out of the same fire. 3 months passed. One morning I got a package. No return address. Inside was a photo, me, years ago, smiling, holding balloons and pizza. Natalie had taken it. No note. I slid it into a drawer and went outside. I sipped my coffee, listened to the quiet street, and realized something. I wasn't angry.